Welcome back to On Texas Football's Wednesday night Longhorn Livestream. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. Make sure y'all pop any questions you have into the chat. How are we doing, guys? Good to have you back, Jeff.
It's good to be back. Little update, not anything pertinent to the podcast, but I nerded out today. I'm trying to restore the color to an old Nintendo system, and I accidentally bleached my thumbs today with hydrogen peroxide. So other than that, today's been really good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, I nerd out on retro video games and baseball cards and all kinds of fun stuff. So
you got quite the green thumb, huh? Almost the opposite.
Yeah, whatever the opposite of a green thumb is, I have it. Yes. Thank you, Daniel. Yes. Little Tecmo Super Bowl, if you will. Absolutely. 100%.
That's really funny.
All right. Well, we'll get right into it. The SEC injury report just came out. Some interesting news on it. Naturally, we have Michael Taft, who is out. Stark said earlier today, target date for him to be back is by Georgia. He'll be out 3 weeks. Cole Hudson's still on the injury report. Aaron Butler back on the injury report. Probable CJ Baxter. That's good news for Texas. Xavier Felsami and Jonathan Cunningham. On the Mississippi State side, questionable is Fluff Bothwell. Are you guys surprised by that at all? Did you think he would be out based on what you saw last week?
For Fluff Bothwell?
Yeah.
This kind of just goes into questionable.
Yeah.
You know, it's coaching games right now, and I think anybody that's 40, 60, 60, 40 in either direction to not tip anything off this early in the week will be listed as questionable. But for Texas, you see some good signs up there, right? CJ Baxter listed as probable. It would be huge to get him back, not just to help get something going in that running game, but look, that's a big body that can help in pass protection. And right now, Texas needs a lot of help in pass protection. So that's a positive. Of course, Xavier Felsami listed as probable. He's missed 3 games so far this year. But hey, if he can get back on the field, he's going to be asked to play a little bit more, given he has time at safety, has time at nickel as well. And with no Michael Taft, where I do need to make a correction. Look, that was not a re-injury. That was not a lingering issue dating back to the late end of 2023 into the summer of 2024 with his thumb. This is a brand new injury with his thumb. Originally, it had been something else in his wrist. So this is significant to not have Taft, right, Jeff? We've talked about it. He's your main communicator back there. Texas is going to have to find a way on the road against a very quick and potent offense to make sure that they do not have anything leaking in the back end.
Yeah, with Fluff Bothwell, CJ, we looked at it today. In Mississippi State's third in the SEC in runs from scrimmage of 10+ yards, and I know we don't see it as much as we used to, but everybody, let's get reacquainted with our old friend, the veer and shoot offense, right? That offense that Art Briles, I'm sorry, Voldemort, he who shall not be named, invented, created, cultivated many years ago at the high school level. Jeff Levy's one of the few guys still running it, Kendall Briles too. But that offense, it's changed a little bit, but still at its core, it's about the vertical passing game. You want to try to stress the defense vertically, stress them horizontally with your splits, and then you want to open up the middle of the field to run the football. I mean, that's Deontay Foreman's 2,000-yard season came when Texas was running the veer and shoot with Sterling Gilbert. So that's Mississippi State's run game. Not a ton of runs beyond that 20+ range, but they do a really good job of getting those 10 to 19-yard runs. Like I said, the third best in the SEC because of naturally what their offense does for them in the run game. So yeah, if Bothwell's back, that's big for them. But I'm with CJ, Amanda. One thing I've learned with these injury reports, unless somebody's listed as out, I don't believe anything these coaches put on an injury report unless I hear or know something. So it's all, you take that all with a grain of salt unless somebody's listed as or you're Mike Elko and you just want to pay the fine, I guess, to the conference for being wrong or misleading people.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of learned that with John Mateer and that whole situation of just not really believing it until you see it. But as far as Texas goes, do you think we're going to see any change on the O-line here? Obviously, we still have Hudson out, but Stroh is no longer on this injury report. Do we think we'll see any of him this week?
I don't think so. I think Texas has crossed that bridge and said, hey, Nick Brooks, you have a 3-4 year future with Texas here. You are going to work out, the bumps and the bruises as they come. And, I think we've heard it from the minute he stepped foot on campus. Texas thinks very highly of the athleticism of Nick Brooks. Now it's about piecing together the mental side, the intellectual side of the game of football on the offensive line. And, hey, that guard position is still brand new to him. So I think they're going to roll with him again. I don't think it would do anything good for his confidence or really the offensive line in general to go back and forth. The big thing, and this is what Sark mentioned on Monday, making sure that you have a full week of practice with Connor Robertson and Nick Brooks is huge for their communication and identification of what is in front of them, something that was a pretty significant issue or problem whenever they went to Lexington.
Yeah, I don't think, taking Nick Brooks out of the lineup and going back to Connor Stroh is the answer. I mean, I feel, I could be wrong, but I'm kind of with CJ. I think the staff at this point is pot committed to rolling with Nick Brooks at left guard for better or worse. You hope that he gets better. You hope that he improves, and you hope that with a full week of he and Connor Robertson working together, that you get some things sorted out. I tend to agree with CJ though. Like with Florida, you go back to look at the Florida game. Like I can't imagine Nick Brooks will ever have a worse game than the one he had in Gainesville a few weeks ago. So assuming we've seen the worst of Nick Brooks, it can only get up from here. Yes, he's probably going to have those ups and downs that a lot of freshmen have. A really good game against Oklahoma, had moments where it wasn't so good against Kentucky. But I'm going to get inside Kyle Flood's head and inside Sark's head. I think at this point they are stay the course with Nick Brooks at this point at left guard, unless injury or something like that.
Now that we have a Voldemort Art Briles on our screen, that is terrifying.
Jeez, that is wow.
Did you just make that, Matt?
That was pretty quick work. I'll say it.
I don't know if you intended it to be that creepy, but if you did, that's well played, sir.
Is that a Chat GPT creation? That's terrifying. Dream about that thing. Anyways, now as far as Michael Taft being out, what do you see as far as just kind of the safety rotation going into not only this next week against Mississippi State, but the upcoming weeks? Obviously, Vanderbilt will be a difficult one as well, and then to hopefully get him back by Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, again, has been kind of where we've had circled right now. And I said it was in pencil earlier. I'll stick with that, right? Stark didn't really provide any type of timeline today, but did mention it was a significant injury. Hope to get him back sooner rather than later. Of course, safety is going to be interesting because you really haven't seen a whole lot of a rotation there. It's probably the only spot on the defense this year where you haven't seen a whole lot of a rotation, right? It's only been Jelani McDonald and Michael Taft. Those are your two leading snap getters so far this year, and it's by a significant margin. And you have to go back to Derek Williams and, Xavier Filsaime in very sparing moments to have seen time at the safety spot. But that's where Texas will have to rely on, right? And I do think Derek Williams is going to be that first guy off the bench. We saw a little bit more of him against Kentucky than we have in really any other game so far this year. I've been surprised, Jeff, maybe a little bit when it comes to how little we've seen of Derek Williams this year. But he will have to be relied upon pretty significantly moving forward. And for those wondering about Jonah, look, I just don't know if he's going to crack this rotation, given that we haven't seen him at any point in significant snaps in the 7 previous weeks.
Yeah, what's interesting about the whole thing to me is we probably would have seen more of Derek Williams this week anyway, because I think facing this offense, Texas probably would have run more 3-high safety. They probably would have rolled that package out, and you got Williams, McDonald, and Taft all on the field at the same time. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. But we're talking about Mississippi State's run game. That's one thing I like about Derek Williams, man. He's a willing run defender. He'll fill the alley. He'll stick his face in there. I do think, though, that the big change, Amanda, is going to be you can't hide how much is going to be on Jelani McDonald's plate now.
Yeah. To
be the facilitator and to be the communicator. And look, you've got some veteran guys back there. Obviously, Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo played a lot of football, but Michael Taft has been the voice of that secondary for the last 2 years now. Obviously, it was with Jahdae Barron last year, but it's up to Jelani McDonald now, if I can talk right tonight, He's at the head of the table now, so it's his turn. And we talked about it today, CJ. This is where when you had those practices in camp where and times during the offseason where Michael Taft wasn't allowed to talk, and it had to be Jelani McDonald, all the communication had to go through him. This is one of those times now where that we'll see how much that pays off for you.
Mm-hmm. Against this offense specifically, look, you're going to need that athleticism and that speed, right? Xavier Filsaime, that was a track kid coming out of high school. We saw the 5-star athleticism on tape at McKinney North. You kind of sat there and wondered, you're like, okay, when does it really click with him mentally? And it certainly sounds like it has, right? Sark has spoke very highly about him today on the SEC teleconference. We've heard of going back into fall camp. Texas is really liking how it's grown mentally over the last few months for Xavier Filsaime as well. So that's going to be key. And as you mentioned, Jeff, the coverage skills of Derek Williams and the vision more than anything going to be important against an offense that likes to take its shots and do so after kind of lulling you to sleep with the run, boom, big shot.
Two things. One, Brennan Thompson has 4 touchdowns this year. All of them are on passes thrown 20-plus yards down the field. So when Blake Shapen goes to him, more often than not, it's going to be a shot. We'll do some stuff. Basically, Brennan Thompson's not catching intermediate routes for Mississippi State. It's either screen, something quick, or he's going deep. And second thing is, if you guys see me like looking distracted or something, I promise, like I'm focused on the show. There's a fly buzzing around my office right now, and I don't know how it got in here, and 2, like where it is that I can kill it. But if you guys see me looking a little panicked and confused, it's because I'm trying to track down this fly that made its way in my office.
This is when you need to get the cat in the office and just put the cat to work on the fly.
Here's the deal with that, Amanda. So Mr. Smudge, I think he's a good 18 and a half, 19 pounds at this point in his life. Yep. He has no time for bugs or lizards or pretty much anything else. He's got a little carpet square in my closet where he hangs out during the day, and whenever he's hungry, he'll pop his head out and let me know. But other than that, he's got no time for that.
I will say, I mean, my cats are similarly sized. I got a fly infestation in one of my first apartments I lived in Shreveport, Louisiana. Oh. And that is one way they kept their weight down. Is Nacho is a professional fly swatter. He is very, very good at it, though. Older age now, 10 years old. He's not quite as into the flies quite as much anymore.
The phrase fly infestation in Shreveport, Louisiana just makes my skin crawl for some reason. I don't know why.
And it was one of the nice apartments in Shreveport, Louisiana. When I moved out, I also found a number of other friends that were hiding in different corners of that apartment. So, but that's why I have cats. They helped kill those, and they did a great job. They earned their rent in Shreveport. That's for sure. All right, we'll move on to talking a little bit more about this Mississippi State game. First, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about our friends over at South Point?
I sure can. Hey, Texas football fans, score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Yeah, you can get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram that is proven to last. Plus, you can get employee incentive pricing right now. That's right. Pay what the employees pay. That, folks, is a real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge.
All right. One of the biggest questions going into this game and just this season so far has just been, I feel like every single coach prior to the games have been asked about Arch Manning, with which Jeff Lebby was as well. But he kind of gave a wraparound answer, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think what they're doing right now, I kind of just mentioned that they're playing to who they are. And they're trying to protect the ball. They're trying to be incredibly high percentage, very, very timely when they're pushing the ball down the field and giving him a ton of freedom to go run the offense. I think Sark understands exactly who they are defensively, and they've been really, really good. And so for them, I think it's about running the football at a really high level, being able to have some play pass in it, and then taking great care of the ball.
Well, I'll agree with Jeff Lebby.
I feel like that response wasn't directly about Arch, but I think he did highlight one of the highlights of Kentucky, which was holding on to the ball and not turning the ball over, which Arch did well in Kentucky.
I mean, if we're being real, like a lot of what coaches are going to say about an opponent in a press conference setting is going to be coach speak. But Jeff Lebby was right. Texas doing a pretty good job keeping the ball. Of course, when you only have 2 first downs in the second half, you're not having enough snaps to have a turnover. But hey, no, props to Arch. He's had back-to-back turnover-free games. But I think more to what he was talking about, it's the identity. I want to see what the identity of the Texas offense is on Saturday. Like, CJ, that was our big talking point coming out of the Kentucky game coming into this week is the Oklahoma game, not just because Texas won in the way they won it, but the style in which the offense utilized that plays off of your defense and special teams. That is part of a formula that can win you football games. Is Sark going to go back to that formula? And he kind of hinted on Monday that maybe he'll go back to more of that style rather than just, chasing shot plays and the stuff we saw on Saturday that kind of bogged the offense down. But I think, Texas does have an identity. Is that the identity they'll show on Saturday, though?
Yeah, it's going to be important. And, he mentioned it in the best way a coach could, right? To have that mutual respect with Sark and also not feel like he's giving anything, away for bulletin board material, but saying, hey, they play to their strengths right now. Their strengths right now is basically just taking care of the football, right? The offensive line's not great. Your quarterback's been iffy. He said, hey, but you haven't turned the ball over. The ball's not been on the ground. The ball hasn't been picked off. So credit to Texas there. They're going to need exactly that because you can't allow extra possessions to Mississippi State. They go quick. And just like we saw against Kentucky, the longer your defense is on the field, especially without its most vocal piece, that lends you into opportunities to be exposed. And look, it's going to be an interesting game too, because from what we know of Texas and Lexington, and now what we know of Mississippi State this entire year, who's going to own the time of possession? I don't know. I can't pinpoint right now how this game is going to play out. Mississippi State, they run the football a lot, but they don't own time of possession. They're 130th right now in the country in terms of most time of possession amongst 136 Division I teams. Texas, of course, just had the time of possession for about 21 minutes last week in Lexington. So it's going to be a back and forth. And if Texas can just complete the gimmies, if they go for 5 yards, hey, that's 5 yards that you weren't getting a week ago. That's going to be huge for allowing that clock to run and putting yourself in third and manageable moving forward to sustain drives.
That's the challenge for Sark is can he stay patient and be willing to take the 3 to 6 yard gains that this offense is capable of putting together. You look last year, and even though the offense turned the ball over a lot and there were games where it was hit and miss, one thing you could count on last year and that really Sark has been able to count on pretty much the entire time he's been at Texas up until this year is, hey, if you have a possession where you have a 3 and out or you have a lull, you can make it up with an explosive play, because you've got that explosive play element. You don't have that this year. So your margin for error, I don't want to say it's non-existent, but it's really small on offense right now. And it's crazy to think, but based off the numbers that CJ just gave, think about how Mississippi State played this game last year in Austin, where you're trying to have, extend possessions, limit the amount of time Texas has the football, kind of take the air out of it, try to keep your offense on the field and sustain drives. It's flipped now, where Texas now has to be the team, I think, that, hey, you want to play off your defense, you want to limit the amount of time that they're exposed, you want to extend drives, you want to try to dominate time of possession and play differential, and things that Texas, quite frankly, did really well against Oklahoma. So it's just there's a couple different layers to this game, but one of them is that if you compare it to last year's game in terms of offensive style, the roles are pretty much flipped.
I will say one stat I don't like about going into this game is that it has been 735 days since Mississippi State has won an SEC game. It is a 15-game losing streak at this point, and with how close they have been the past couple weeks, I'm not sure if that's something I necessarily like walking into. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I feel like it's kind of a Florida situation. Their backs are against the wall too at this point. So I would hate to be the team that breaks the 15-game losing streak personally.
Hey, Texas is backs against the wall too. They're a hungry dog, and hungry dogs have to do what they need to do to survive. And we'll see what kind of adjustments or what kind of aggressiveness they come out with. But to your point, look, Mississippi State's been close, and Sark mentioned it today. He said, look, this team is much improved from a year ago. What they've been able to do to beat Arizona State earlier this year to go to overtime with Tennessee. But playing in Starkville is not easy, right? And the cowbells will be loud. Texas has been practicing just for that. So what will they do to ensure that they find a way to come out on top? It's going to have to take everything they got.
I mentioned this after the Kentucky game too. If you're Jeff Lebby, you probably watch that film with your staff and you've got to feel like, hey, the rest of the way, this is our best chance to get a win. Because you look at Mississippi State's schedule, obviously, Texas this week at home. They go to Fayetteville next Saturday on the 1st. They go to Athens, and we can all, or actually Georgia's at home, but I think we can all agree that's probably a loss for them. To Missouri, most likely a loss, and then they're home for the last game of the year, but it's the Egg Bowl against Ole Miss. So, yeah, you look at all that, CJ, they probably do look at this game and feel like of their remaining schedule, this is their best chance. And yeah, Marcus Myers mentioned in the chat. Thanks, Marcus, for chiming in. This is Mississippi State's homecoming. So they probably internally feel like this is their best chance to get a win with what's left on the schedule. I know they would love to be able to find 2 more to get to a bowl game, but you can't get 2 more without 1 more. And they probably feel like this is their best shot.
Yeah, Texas just played Kentucky in their homecoming too. We'll see how quickly night falls in Starkville, Jeff, because something about the cowbells under the lights, they get a little bit louder. And if that second half is getting close to some dark skies, then, hey, we'll see if that has an impact. Of course, Texas been prone for illegal formations, false starts, ball movements from the center. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects with the crowd noise and everything that's to come with playing on the road once again.
Okay, sorry guys about that. My internet is not cooperating with me today. It's I was hearing about half of everything you guys were saying, so hopefully this is a little bit better now.
It's about all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I got the gist, so that's all that matters.
We'll blame Billy. It's Billy's fault.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are his fault. I don't know if y'all saw the clip of him because he picked Mississippi State to win, and his attempt at a cowbell was a mug, and he just starts rattling it from side. I was like, and I had no idea what he was doing. It just looked like he was with the Salvation Army, like begging on the corner. And I was like, I don't think this is the own that you think it is right now, but made for great podcasting material. So it was a fun episode. Y'all should go watch that. Moving goalposts.
No, we're not blaming Nacho for this. It's Billy's fault. I'll blame Billy before I'll blame Nacho.
Yeah, nothing in this house is Nacho's fault. This is his house, and I just live here, honestly, at this point. I mean, I have a sofa that matches Nacho just for him. So, but we'll go ahead and get to some of y'all's questions. Ryan Seal, thank you so much for the super chat. First things, great job, guys, lady. OTF is undefeated. Putting bias aside, on a scale of 1 to 10, how realistic is it that Texas loses out? I feel like that's a pretty negative mindset, but I mean, anything can happen, but I don't think that'll happen.
I'll say if 1 is the lowest, I'll say 1 because Texas beats Arkansas at home, without question.
You don't look.
I'm not saying that's the only game they win, but I mean, I don't think Texas is losing out. Shocked is not a word I use anymore because
yeah,
I've lived a long time. I've lived a lot of lives covering this program for since 2008. But I will be shocked if Texas goes 5-7. They lose out. Yeah. I don't see it.
Ryan, thank you for the super chat. I'll put it at a 2, I guess. I can't say it's 100% not going to happen. If you can't score more than 13 points in regulation against Kentucky, look, you're playing a lot of teams that can score. Now, I don't think Texas will lose out, but I don't think it's necessarily 0% that they win one of the next 5 games. I don't think that's 100%. One thing I do know is this defense is still very good. This defense will give you a chance. The special teams is becoming more of a plus each and every week. If that can sustain, look, you can get by with scoring 17 or 20 points. You're just going to have to do so against some very, very good offenses and some teams with some really good defensive talent. So, look, I don't know what I would put this next 5 slate prediction at record-wise. I think Texas could win 5-0. I think Texas could lose out and go 0-5. It's that week to week for me. And it will remain that way until really we see any bit of consistency, in which I don't know if we're going to get that in 2025.
That's Amanda, I want your thoughts on this too, because that's where I'm at. Or is this going to be, and specifically on offense, because I feel like the defense, other than the Florida game, defense has been lights out all year. Special teams, we can actually see growth on special teams. Like special teams is getting better. But with the offense, I'm somewhere between settling on, man, they play up and down to their competition, and it's just going to be like, what side of the bed did Sark get out of that morning based on how the game is called and what the game plan looks like? Or is it just that wildly inconsistent that a couple of times in the regular season, the OU game being one of them, they can kind of circle the wagons and rally up, and Sark can really just, put on a masterclass like he did against Oklahoma. I don't know which one it is. I don't know if if it's a lack of attention to detail, if that's just who this team is, if Sark didn't take the Kentucky game seriously. I don't know which one it is, but I'm leaning. I'll tell you what I'm off of. I'm off of, man, Sark is saving some stuff and he'll get to it later. No, I think we pretty much seen what the 2025 offense is going to be. I'm with CJ. It is week to week, but I don't know kind of what element is making it week to week, if that makes any sense.
I think mine's also at a 1. I think the biggest thing, though, is you say if Sark just didn't take Kentucky seriously, he said it was his SEC championship game. So if that was his SEC championship game, I'm hoping the next games are his national championship games, because I don't want to see anything like that again against Kentucky. But I think I agree with you. You don't really know what you're going to get. You've seen that this team can put it together in the case of second half Oklahoma game. Now it's a question of, can they put it together on the road? I don't feel like you've seen an offense really put anything together on the road, and except for second half of Arch versus Florida, but just some level of consistency and confidence, because there was that confidence after OU, but that's shot again. So it's just kind of a roller coaster. But I'm at a 1. I don't think they lose out. I think they win 1. This league is too weird. Even terrible teams beat good teams all the time in the SEC. So you can look at last season for some of those. So not saying that Texas is a terrible team, because this is a very elite defense at the very least. And if the offense can put it all together and play to their strengths and weaknesses, I feel like you could have something here. But that's just not something we've really seen consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional instability is the label that I'm pretty close to just putting on this offense, because I still think they're a group that, and it cuts both ways. When they have things go their way and things start to get positive, man, it can really get rolling like it did against Oklahoma. But I think the opposite is true. I think when you have a 3 and out or a couple bad series, I think it can mount and snowball real quick. And then this offense is in a hole and they don't know how to get out of it. And I think that goes back to just leadership and some inexperience. And I think from the top down, I think everybody's got to be better on offense, but I don't know where y'all stand on that. I just feel like, and maybe that's an incorrect label for me to use, but I just feel like the emotional instability of this offense is way too volatile for me to say, yeah, Texas they'll lose 1 game the rest of the way or lose 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier in the week. You just don't know what the identity is of this team. And Amanda, you mentioned it. You can have a great week against Oklahoma and you can fall flat on your face against Kentucky. And that's in the span of 7 days, in which you treated both games like they were very important. I know the emotional aspect of Oklahoma is significantly different, but all week you heard them mention Kentucky as their SEC championship game. Each week will be treated as such. And if that's the performance you get in a game in which you know you have to win, I just can't put any good faith into believing that it's going to find any consistency at all moving forward. So what I do know is defense is good. It's a top 2, top 3 defense in the entire country. And if you preach that complementary football, well, that defense is going to be put into a position to win you football games as long as your offense ends every possession with a punt, a kick, or an extra point. And Texas did exactly that against Kentucky. That is the winning recipe. Basically Iowa football over the last 5 years, right? It's not fun. It won't be enjoyable to watch on a Saturday. But if you put your defense and your special teams in a position to win football games, you have a chance over the next 5 days, 5 weeks.
it's a throwback SEC style team that's what it needs to be right now. I mean, that's not what it's going to be forever. That's not an indefinite indictment on Sark or Arch or the offensive line or anybody else. But right now, what this offense needs to be for this team to succeed is it's really like kind of what you would think of like a throwback SEC style offense where it's, hey, you want to try to run the football, shorten the game, rely on your defense, rely on your kicking game.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll get to a few more of your questions right after we hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, y'all, make sure you get in your super chats, your questions, whatever you want to ask us. We have a super chat here from Clay G. Thank you so much. Start calling plays like he's got his 2020 Bama guys. We have scored less than 21 points in 7 of our last 11 games against Power 4 teams. Might be time to change the philosophy Sark has with his scheme. I feel like Sark has changed his philosophy from 2020 Bama. At least I would hope so, because he definitely does not have the same group or type of players he had 2020 Bama. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I just think it's time to adapt. It's time to evolve. You like I said, it's been the fail safe has been the ability to rely on the explosive play. And you just don't have that element you can rely on right now. Yeah, last year I think Texas, it was 10+ yard plays from scrimmage. I think Texas led the country last year. 1 or 2 in the country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could count on, okay, yeah, if we're 2nd and 12, whatever, boom, we hit a pass and all of a sudden we're 3rd and 1 or we're moving the chains or whatever. And actually, I think further complicating that philosophy for Sark is you look at the last really 23 and 24, Texas was one of, if not the best offense in the country at the percentage of their first downs gained on 1st and 2nd down. How do you manage 3rd down on offense? Don't even worry about getting the 3rd down. That's how you manage it. Just avoid it altogether. But that, again, philosophically, that's just not how this team needs to operate. And CJ mentioned it earlier, and I think this is going to be the real test. Is Sark content to, hey, a 4-yard inside zone on 1st down is a really good play for this offense?
Yeah.
I think that confidence that I talked about, the lack of panic, I think that's got to come from Sark too. Because again, like I feel like you're inexperienced on offense to the point, especially without Cole Hudson last week. You didn't have CJ Baxter. You had a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps that weren't there for you. I feel like if the players sense that Sark is panicking or he doesn't have any answers or whatever, and I'm not saying he does, but I think it's something to be cognizant of, they will pick up on that. And I think, again, as emotionally fragile as your offense is right now, as unstable as they are mentally and emotionally, you can't have that. It's got to be you almost have to have positive reinforcement all the time. So, but again, there is a path to where this offense can be competent. It's just a matter of whether or not Sark will do it.
Yeah. And hey, it helps when your quarterback hits open guys too. So there were guys that were open. Let's again, I don't. It's kind of a pile on. Hard to hit guys that are open when you're getting pressure in your face. So the wheel just keeps going when it comes to the issues Texas is facing offensively. And I wouldn't say it's all one person's fault, though it's easy to point to one, right? But right now, it's a mixture of playing with confidence, playing with some swagger. In Texas right now, I don't think has any of that.
I will say there were some stats I looked at that were encouraging as far as like if you want this game to be a get-right game as far as the offensive line goes, Mississippi State is not good at rushing the passer. I think they've I think they've had the least amount of sacks in the SEC or close to it thus far. So if there is a get-right time for the O-line.
Yeah, we said that against Kentucky, though. They were dead last coming into the game, too.
Okay, well, I mean.
They all get a Texas bump. It's basically what it is. Politicians have it when they go on the trail. They meet up in certain states, counties, whatever. They get a bump in the polls. Well, front sevens play Texas, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of the pack when it comes to pass rush, tackles for loss, etc. It's ugly. But
the thing that if I was consulting Sark, and I'm not because I'm here doing the live stream, Sark makes a lot of money and I'm not in the building. But if I was, I would say your goal should be to, as quickly as possible, as early as possible in the game, make your pass rush a factor. If Texas if you get a 10-3, 14-3, 10-0 lead and can start to put pressure and the opponent feels like it's going to be a low possession type game to where now they feel pressured that they have to throw the football, that's advantage you all day. Because if you get Colin Simmons and Trey Moore in this defense into predictable passing downs, like we saw against Oklahoma, where, hey, it's a different game when the Texas guys have a chance. They know what you're doing, and they can just put their hand in the dirt, get in that track stance, and tee off on the quarterback. It's really hard to stop any defense when that's the case in the SEC, let alone this Texas defense will still have some of the best edge guys and best pass rushers in the country. So that it's kind of all ties into what we're talking about, but the earlier in the game you can make your pass rush a factor, better off your chances are going to be winning.
I like this question from Ryan Seal. Thank you for the super chat. Not trying to be negative. I want them to win. What is one thing the offensive line does good, keyword good, consistently? It's concerning. And I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Really good at picking Arch up off the dirt.
Maybe they have some floss for the grass out of his teeth. I don't
know. And again, that's where it's frustrating, is because you see bits and pieces, right? The outside zone against Oklahoma, that was good. Your pass protection against Oklahoma, it was better than it was against Florida, right? And then on the week to week, you didn't see a great amount. And they tried some new things, right? They tried pulling your center a little bit more. They tried pulling some guards and some tight ends at times. A lot more counter. It just didn't have an answer. And I appreciate the concept Sark and Flood were trying, because, hey, they weren't just going to keep trying the same thing over and over and over. It had the same result, but they were trying new things. And I do tip my cap in that regard, because they're probably just as frustrated as anybody else that has to watch this every single day, because they certainly see their names talked about saying, hey, they don't deserve to have the play calling job they have. They probably don't have deserve to have to coach the offensive line the way that they have their jobs right now. And they hear that, right? So they're trying everything they can behind the buildings, but at the same time, there's just not a lot of good right now. And what do you do to fix that right now? I don't think you have an answer. Otherwise, we would have seen it 8 weeks into the season.
It doesn't help either when, against Oklahoma, when you felt like you had a combination that worked, like with Nick Brooks getting a full week to work at left guard and working next to Cole Hudson, and you had that OU game, and then Cole Hudson gets hurt in practice on Tuesday, the week of the Kentucky game. And now you got to switch it up again with a guy in Connor Robertson who's played, but he hadn't played as much as Cole Hudson and hadn't been in that game, in that position, in the type of games that Cole Hudson had been. And especially with a young guy like Nick Brooks, who's just learning, like, you want a veteran guy next to you. So yeah, it's just, I think, and Ryan, I understand you're not trying to be negative. Like, I get it. And all opinions are fine. Like, we welcome all opinions. But I think consistency is the key across the board. I think with the O-line, and I think you can say this for probably with the exception of running back, I think most of the position groups on offense, the highs are really, really high, but the lows are really, really low. So that baseline has got to get sorted out at some point. Like, it's got to come to a level. You got to get to the point, like the offense the last 2 years, like, you kind of knew what their baseline was. Like, yeah, the Georgia game at home was a bad game, but that was kind of the blip on the radar. Like, that was the outlier. Other than that game, you kind of knew the baseline of what that offense was going to give you. This offense doesn't have a baseline right now. Hey, man, they can control the game and control the clock, and it can be really good, or, man, they can have a bunch of 3 and outs, and then all of a sudden, you're behind the 8 ball and really up against it in the second half. So I think consistency just as a whole, not just with the O-line, but on offense is an issue. And, I've seen a couple people say in the chat, that's you're gonna have to ride that roller coaster with this offense and just hope that, just hang on, buckle in, hang on tight, and we'll see where we are when the ride stops.
All right, we'll get to a couple more of your questions. First, we're going to hear from our friends over at Von Lane. From Texas football Saturdays to NFL Sundays, from ACL Fest to Formula One, this fall is stacked, and Von Lane is a smart way to get there. Forget TSA lines or fighting I-35 traffic. With Von Lane, you board in minutes at luxury hotel terminals. Then it's just 22 big first-class seats, each with Wi-Fi, outlets, and an onboard attendant bringing snacks, drinks, and yes, even beer and cocktails. You'll arrive relaxed and ready for kickoff, the concert, or family time. And with booking open through December, you can also lock in Thanksgiving and Christmas travel now. Go to vonlane.com, use code OTF25 and save $20 on your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. So y'all make sure to get in your questions. Once again, super chats. We'll jump to the top of our list. We got a question here from Terrence, or a statement rather. Ryan and Jeff, do you know Georgia only beat Kentucky 13-12 in Lexington on a Saturday night last year and still won the SEC? I don't know if you can compare that Georgia team to this Texas team in that aspect.
I'm aware, and Terrence, I'm not picking on you when I answer this, so please don't take offense. I'm just speaking in general. It doesn't have to be, the result of a game doesn't have to be like an all or nothing deal. It doesn't have to be, well, how come you're not happy with the win? Like, Georgia went to Kentucky last year and struggled, and they ended up winning the SEC. What's wrong with you? Otherwise, it's not like, well, the sky is falling and the offense sucks and this thing is terrible. Well, more than one thing can be true. It can be true that Texas found a way to win a football game that really they had no business winning. And that is a positive that you can take forward. No question. But at the same time, you can also recognize the reason why you had no business winning that game is because your offense was so bad that it negated your defense giving up 13 points on 86 snaps and the special teams basically carrying you to a win. So both things can be true. You can have more than one thing that is true as a result of a game. So I wish people didn't have to take like this all or nothing view of a result of a game. And even though that makes the hot takes and whatever, but like there can be more than one thing can be true as a result of a game.
CJ, Jeff, Mavs or Spurs tonight? Who you got?
I'm an MFFL, baby. Mavs fan for life.
I'm on the same.
Fire Nico.
And fire Nico.
Fire Nico. Fire Nico. Always.
Nico doesn't get credit for Cooper Flag. You don't get credit for lucking into the number one pick.
I think that was the one day that I woke up in the morning and thought it was like April 1st. I think we all thought it was a prank. And anyways.
It was a sick joke is what it was. And it's not over yet. And I'll never forgive Nico Harrison and the current administration for that. No. I'll never get over it.
Never. All right. We got a question from Landon here. Crazy
Hold
how
on,
fast.
Amanda. I'm a Mavs fan. For
Okay.
what?
Sorry.
I had that one ready to go. Opening day, baby. I love it. I love the NBA.
Is that game here in Dallas, or is it? I should know. I can see people walking to the game if they're walking to the game. So I should be better than that. There was no traffic coming home. So
CJ, you should keep the Jet Terry headband on for the rest of the game, the rest of the show.
Good. This thing is so nasty. I've had it since about 2004. So.
You can't throw that in the wash, right?
That if you've had it since 2004, that might be an Eric Dampier headband then. So
yeah, just on a job.
All right. Anyways, we got a question from Landon. Thank you for the super chat. Crazy how fast folks forget 5 and 7. Guess Sark should apologize for building a top 10 program. And yeah, that last part. I mean, I didn't forget 5 and 7, but I think people are have gotten used to progression.
Yeah. And I think that's where the frustration comes in, is that you remember 5 and 7 and you're starting to get glimpses once again of 5 and 7. And this is after multiple years of going to the college football playoff, putting 25 players in the NFL draft, coming into the season with a preseason number 1 by your name and the number 1 recruiting class in your back pocket. And yet you're sitting there saying, this feels really familiar to when Texas was 5 and 7. There are a lot of similarities on that offensive line in which for 5 years heard all about #BigHumans, right? You heard all about physicality in the trenches that wasn't there when Texas was going 5 and 7. And yet you're looking a lot like the team that was 5-7. And that's the frustration. Is, Amanda, you've mentioned it. It's hard when you've just gone up the escalator all the time. And all of a sudden you miss a step, you fall back down, and you sit around and you say, man, I was really close to the top there. Now I got halfway up my ladder to go. And that's where Texas is right now, because they've made a lot of progress. And the program is in significantly better shape in terms of culture, in terms of talent, in terms of buy-in, in terms of everything from the public's perspective, looking in, from the coaches to the fans to the players to recruits, knowing that this team and program is in a better place than what it was. The frustration, again, is that when you see them trot out on a Saturday, you're looking around saying it's feeling and looking a little bit different than what it did the last 2 years. When the expectations were this high coming in, that wasn't what you hoped to see, and that's where the frustration stems from and ultimately is amplified from.
Again, more than one thing can be the case. We can appreciate where this program is compared to where it was. And trust me, I do. I have seen a lot of bad Texas football in my lifetime, more than I care to admit I've seen. But to CJ's point, and it's not just the preseason #1 ranking and the hype around Arch. When the head coach and the players are openly and willingly talking about winning a national championship and playing for a national championship and taking the next step, that in and of itself sets an expectation for the fan base and for outside of, okay, if they are talking about this internally, if they're expressing it through the media, then you know what they're talking about internally. That sets the bar for what you think the season is going to be. So you can look at it and say, yes, this is better than a 5-7 season. Respect where Sark is taking the program. But at the same time, when you have a game in which the head coach just had the absolute worst game of his tenure on offense, on his side of the ball, where he makes his living, where his expertise is, and he just had that more than halfway through his 5th season, it's a red flag. It's a cause for concern. Is it the end of the world? Does it mean we all think Sark sucks and we want to fire the coach and we want to bench the quarterback and we just want to move on? No.
I mean, some people do, but some bad opinions are just louder. So
exactly. Like, no rational human being wants that for Texas right now. But like, again, it's the extremes and it's the all or nothing. Like, I just wish people would just take a step back and just try to look at multiple viewpoints instead of whichever echo chamber you like hearing Texas football through. You just hear it through that, and it's nothing else. It's either overly positive or it's overly negative. It's got to be somewhere. The truth is somewhere in the middle. So let's just get to that point sooner or later.
All right, Casey's being positive here. Feels like a down year, but not 5 or 7 in anything. This team will win a game or two that makes you go, whoa, yay. And I think OU was that. I can't say I was super optimistic going into OU, and that made me go, oh, yay. So,
yeah, I wouldn't put it completely out of the picture that they walk into Georgia and Athens and find a way to play that game very close or even win, right? And that's to the point we're trying to make. The volatility offensively is just so high and such an unknown that you just, again, you don't know what might happen, but you do know because of your defense, because of the way that over the last month or so your special teams unit has been playing, you're going to be given opportunities that the normal team with an offense like this probably doesn't have, right? And that's encouraging. That's where the optimism comes in on a week to week to say, if they fall on a fumble, there's 7 points. And, if they come away with another interception, hey, there's great opportunity to get points in which you don't have to, go the length of the field because, newsflash, they haven't been great at that.
Yeah.
But you have hope there, and it starts on your defense and it starts with your special units.
It may not be pretty, but if Texas ended the regular season 10-2, would anybody be shocked? I wouldn't, because to CJ's point,
I'd be very pleasantly surprised. I would say. I don't know about. I'd be pretty shocked,
but to CJ's point, like, that's the kind of inconsistency we're talking about. We haven't seen anything yet that leads us to believe the offense will hit its stride and start an upward trajectory. Again, you may have another game like the Kentucky game, but at least we know, okay, hey, at least in an ugly game, like, they can win that style of game. So I mean, again, it's a roller coaster. We're all just going to have to buckle in and just be along for the ride, because I don't know from 1 week to the next what you're going to get on offense. I feel like we know what we're going to get from the defense, and hopefully Florida is the outlier at the end of this thing. But you can you can tell me any scenario for Texas final record between 5-7 and 10-2, and you can probably make a pretty good argument for anything that falls in between that spectrum.
Yep. All right, we'll get to some more of your questions right after we hear from our friends over at Hayes City Store. Jeff, can you tell us about them?
I sure can, because there's a few restaurants that once you go to them once, you just know right away it's a special place. And Hayes City Store is one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. From the famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, their homemade desserts, all of it is awesome, and it's all made from scratch. They've also got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. They got 13 TVs in their ice house, makes it the perfect game day setup, whether you're talking about Saturday or Sunday. And if you're there on Sunday, they've got that Sunday brunch from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog-friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids. So get your whole crew together. Head on out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out their website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We got time for a couple more questions, so make sure you get your questions and super chats in. We got one from John, but it's not a question there. But thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. And we got one from Quentin. Football reasons, please. I'm not really sure what this is referring to, but if you want to let us know in the comments, let us know, Quentin. We'll get right back to you. Thank you for the super chat. We got one from Paxton. Maybe Taff can encourage the O-line on the sidelines. I think Taff is like everyone's hype boy. I don't think we have to worry about that.
No, he'll definitely be on the sidelines. And, we talk about how impactful having Akina back and having the vocal pieces on the sidelines are. Look, Michael Taff, even though he won't be suited up, he's going to be right there, in the DB huddle, on the sidelines whenever they come back off the field. He's going to be a very important piece for this team whenever they travel for the next week and a half.
All right, is Michael Taff, is he the designated chain holder for this game? Is he wearing everybody's jewelry for this game?
Why
I'd
not?
love to see it. Just a kid from Westlake.
Where he was meant to be. We got a question from Freshwater Cajun. In Sark's history, I feel like we always see questionable gameplay calls and execution in the first half of the season, but hones in at the second half. Do you think that's the case this year? I mean, I would love it if it was.
I mean, I don't know, Freshwater Cajun. I don't know if I'd agree with that, because Sark was really damn good last year in the Michigan game.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before that, the Alabama game on the road in Tuscaloosa was pretty damn good. So, again, I think it's just Sark adjusting to life, where there are some luxuries you've had the last few years on offense that you can't lean on right now. You can't lean on a veteran offensive line with a first-round left tackle, because you don't have one. You can't lean on the explosive play element because it hadn't been there for you all year. So I think it's just one of those years where I think he's having to adjust and recalibrate more than he thought he was going to have to, and more than I thought he was going to have to.
Got a question from Bobby TD Brown. If Arch struggles in the first half, do you give Caldwell a shot? He looks like a cool customer that could hit the easy layups. I mean, if Sark hasn't done it yet, I don't see him doing it except for just an exceptional circumstance. I mean, similar to what you saw in the Georgia game last year when he finally decided to bench Quinn for a little bit to just kind of let him recalibrate. And he has commented on this in press conferences, hasn't he?
Yeah, he didn't think about going to Caldwell against Kentucky, and I think we're back to if you go back to 2022, Quinn's first year, and again, I think we forget how slow of a burn it was for Quinn, and there were some pretty forgettable games in that 22 season. He had every reason to go to Hudson Card, a more proven backup quarterback than Matthew Caldwell. He had every reason to do it that game at Oklahoma State. He had every reason to do it that home game against TCU. And he didn't pull the trigger either time. So typically, unless it's a deal where, kind of like what Sark talked about. And again, it's kind of different when you got Arch as your backup quarterback, but him talking about Quinn last year in the Georgia game, if a quarterback's just not seeing the field well, and you could tell that he's rattled, then yeah, you probably need to sit him. But until he senses that from Arch, where it's just so bad that, he's not seeing it and he's rattled and he's frazzled, I don't see him doing it. And even then, he might just let him play through it.
Yeah, and I like this response. It would be a bad look for Sark not to allow his players to work this out. Recruits are watching for that loyalty. I mean, it's a fair point, and he was loyal to Quinn through a fault last year, so I don't see him being any different with Arch.
CJ, I don't know where you come out on this, but like I think this is just a theory I'm gonna throw out there. I think because Sark knows what it's like as a quarterback, I think once he feels like a guy has earned the right for this to be his team, there's gonna have to be something really, really, really drastic for him to go away from that guy.
Yeah.
And it hadn't gotten to that point with Arch for him yet.
Yeah, and that's where he kind of painted the difference between Quinn against Georgia a year ago and Arch against Kentucky this past weekend. Is he was making the right reads. He was making the right decisions. The execution just wasn't there. And against Georgia, it was different, right? Quinn wasn't seeing the field per Sark, and he wasn't necessarily following the play and progressions where his eyes should have been. Now it's just about executing. And it's, again, very difficult. We've reported this throughout the year and mentioned it on streams, but on OTF. It's tough whenever your quarterback goes out in practice and he looks phenomenal. He's making all the throws and he looks like the guy that you're expecting him to be. And then the bright lights come and you look at him in games and you're like, well, I don't know why he's missing a wide open Ryan Wingo underneath, or he can't hit Jack Injuries wide open 12 yards down the field. You're sitting there, it's like, okay, he's playing everything correctly except for the actual execution of a throw. And again, you see the growth from the second half against Florida when he was making plays outside the pocket, using his legs to be a weapon. You go up to Dallas and you look great in that second half as well. You're sitting there saying, he's piecing it together. You know, things are growing with him. And then again, you kind of hit a wall and you're like, okay, is this just the first time starting thing? What's the issue here? But at the end of the day, the process is correct. The eyes are correct. The decisions, they're there. And that's where you start to really wonder, is like, what is it? And I don't think there's an answer for it, especially right now. But as a head coach, as a guy who's played the quarterback position, it's hard because you expect that next one to fall, right? You expect that next decision to be on the money because you've seen it in practice for 8 weeks. You've seen it at times in games, do the extra step above and beyond for Arch. And so I don't think you'll ever see Arch on the sidelines this year. I think that's just what it's going to be. And I don't necessarily fault Sark at all for that.
Yep. We got a super chat from Perry Giles. A visit to Starkville is like a visit to Corsicana. It's quite a comparison there. I mean, I've never been to Starkville, but I have been to Corsicana, and I don't have much to say about it. Let's hope our guys can actually get up for this game. I mean, you said the same thing after Florida, and they managed to get up for OU. Obviously, a lot of different emotions in an OU game, but the narrative has been the same. So,
yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Corsicana.
really?
I've been to Starkville before.
It's not far from like DFW. It's like an hour and a half south. I don't know.
Keep me away, but yeah, no, I liked Starkville whenever I went back in the day. We'll see if I enjoy it this weekend.
No. Did you watch the Navarro, the Navarro College cheer series on Netflix? I assume probably not.
I can't imagine I have.
Traffic up show.
Think about that question one more time, Amanda.
That is a claim to fame that I think Corsicana has, but it was really
I
big on
watched
Netflix. You watched it, Jeff?
Yeah.
I think the coach went to Texas. Her name was Monica.
I don't know if she went to Texas or not. I just know my wife was watching it, and it's one of those deals you plop down on the couch, and it's like, well, I'm pot committed, so I might as well just finish out this series. So
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I won't put it on your watch list, CJ, but it was interesting.
I got a long list.
Got a question from Daniel. CJ, do you have any idea how our tight ends blocking grades have been?
I don't have the PFF grades or anything like that. I can say there's been a lot left to be desired with this tight end group. I think that the effort has been there. There's just maybe not an innate ability to displace people. Some people have that. I think Nick Townsend has that ability. I think you're still wanting to see it a little bit more with Jack Injuries. I think at times you see it from Jordan Washington. But at the same time, I don't think you have a guy that's great in routes and pairs that up with their physicality up front. And that's why you've seen so many different variations of two tight end looks. There's basically switches on a drive to drive basis.
if you get into the PFF numbers with with
know if I can
with pass blocking. I know sometimes you keep a tight end. It's average to below average. Run blocking, average to below average.
We got a question from Demetrius. What happened to Justice Terry?
Nothing.
He was on the field for a little bit against Kentucky.
Yeah. This is one of those questions about the wide receivers is who are you taking off right now? You're not taking off Colin Simmons. You know, your interior offensive or defensive lines played phenomenal. He kind of plays that same role that Hero Canoes played this year, and Hero Canoes played more defensive line snaps than anybody on this team. When Justice Terry's been on the field, he's been productive. Yeah, sure. But are you taking off an All-American Colin Simmons? Are you taking off a fourth-year guy in Ethan Burke? You know, it's just tough. This Texas front seven is really good. And, you know, to get him those early reps against Kentucky, I think is a huge positive. But as I've mentioned, unless you've been put on the field from the very get-go this year, it's tough for this Texas staff, and this has been the case throughout their tenure here, to truly buy in and say, you're now our guy 8 weeks into a season.
Yeah, it was either the first or second series against Kentucky that he was on the field. And I'll throw in another one, CJ. I certainly don't want to take snaps away from Lance Jackson right now either.
Yeah, he's been great.
All right, guys, y'all got a prediction for this weekend? I can already tell the face that CJ's going to make before.
I do have a prediction.
Oh, you want to give it this week?
Yeah, I will. And this is more. I mentioned this on the breakdown with Rod and Bobby earlier this afternoon. I have Texas winning this thing 19-17, and that's off the heels of 4 field goals. So, look, it's an ugly score. I'm again giving this defense the benefit of the doubt, the special teams unit, the benefit of the doubt. I can't do that with the offense. And I even sit here said 19-17, shoot. You know, Mississippi State loves to huck the football. They love to, you know, go quick. They're going to have opportunities to score. They're averaging 39 points per game at home this year. But that's how much I trust this defense. So we'll see. No 50 burgers here, Cisco. I'm sorry.
I don't think there will be a 50 burger on this one. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd take the under, and I'd have Texas winning. Look, as long as the defense, I think, can keep an opponent under 20 points, I think the offense and special teams can cobble enough together to win. So I'd take Texas to win like a 23-17 type of game.
I was going to do 21-17, probably the closest to 20 that you can get without, unless you pick 20. But, yeah, I agree. First team to 20, same thing I said against Florida, but we saw how that went.
I gotta when I'm predicting scores now, I gotta think about what's a score that's gonna be enough for you to win, but like has several field goals in there. Because honestly, like Mason Shipley, knock on wood, Mason Shipley from inside of 50 yards is money, which is exactly what I wanted him to be when Texas got him out of the portal.
And even the OU game, the one that he was short, I think it was like 56 yards, maybe 55. It was that one, I was standing right behind it. It was straight on track. If he had a couple more feet on it, it would have been good. So I think it's just positive there. But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes this weekend. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you root for the Longhorns this weekend. Hook 'em horns. Make sure you tune into Coffee and Football in the morning. Thank you so much for tuning into this Longhorn live stream. We will be back next week, this time at 7 p.m. for On Texas Football. I'm Amanda Atwell. That's Jeff Howell and CJ Vogel. Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys. Hook 'em horns.
Hook up.